I wasn't supposed to wait for her that night. But there she was, standing under the dull glow of the street lamp, her hair catching the wind, eyes searching for something that wasn't a ride. "Didn't think you'd still be around," she said, half smiling. Her voice had that kind of calm that makes you forget what you were about to say. She wore it like perfume, confidence, laced with something fragile. I offered her the passenger seat, pretending not to notice how her fingers trembled when they brushed mine. "Just drop me near the corner," she added, sliding in. The door shut, soft but final. The rain had stopped hours ago, but the air still held its memory, damp, heavy, alive. The car smelled faintly of coffee and her perfume, jasmine with a hint of something darker. We drove in silence for a while. The kind that hums. She looked out the window, tapping her nails against the glass like she was keeping time with a song only she could hear. I wanted to ask what she was thinking, but she looked like someone who had already said too much to the wrong person once. When she finally spoke, it wasn't about the ride. "You ever feel like you keep talking just to fill the quiet?" I smiled, careful not to. "All the time." She turned to me then, and for a second, I forgot the road. Her eyes had that same midnight restlessness I felt in my chest. The kind that asks questions neither of you are ready to answer. The streetlights stretched across her face in golden lines as we passed them. Her lipstick had faded. There was a smudge of mascara just beneath one eye, something so human it made her seem almost untouchable. She noticed me looking and said softly, "Don't. You'll make me self-conscious." I looked away. Too fast. She smiled, just a little. "Sorry," I muttered. "Don't be," she said. It's been a long time since someone actually looked. The way she said it, quiet, almost accidental, left something hanging in the air. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. When we reached her street, she didn't tell me to stop. "Keep going," she whispered. The world outside had gone still. No cars, no voices, just the hum of the engine and the sound of her breathing beside me. She rested her hand near the gearshift, her fingers grazing mine. Not a touch, exactly, just the suggestion of one. I could feel the heat of her skin without it ever meeting mine. "You're quiet tonight," she said. "I don't want to say the wrong thing." "Then say nothing," she murmured, turning her gaze toward the dark horizon. "Sometimes that's louder." The car rolled to a stop by a small park, the kind that looks different after midnight. Empty swings. Streetlight flicker. Her reflection in the window, softer now. She reached for the door handle, then paused. "Can I tell you something?" I nodded. I didn't really need a ride. Her eyes lingered on me, not teasing, not playful, just honest. I just didn't want to go home alone. For a moment, the world narrowed, her face half lit, the air caught between us, my pulse in my throat. Then a light flicked on from the porch across the street. Someone stepped outside, calling her name. She blinked, straightened her coat, and smiled, the kind of smile that hides more than it reveals. "Guess this is my stop," she said, opening the door. The cool night air rushed in. She looked back once, her hands still on the door. "Next time," she whispered. "Don't make me ask." And before I could answer, the door clicked shut, leaving the scent of her perfume and the weight of everything unspoken in the quiet car. She called a week later. Said her internet was down. I knew there were a dozen repairmen closer to her house, but I went anyway. When she opened the door, barefoot, with her hair loosely tied and a mug in her hand, I almost forgot why I was there. "Hope you don't mind," she said, stepping aside. "I made coffee. Thought you might want some before you fix my world." Her smile carried that same teasing warmth, but there was something else tonight, a tiredness around her eyes, the kind that doesn't come from lack of sleep but from too many nights spent alone. The router blinked quietly in the corner, pretending to be the reason I was here. "You sure it's the internet that's broken?" I asked, crouching near the cables. She laughed softly. "You'd be surprised how often that's true for people, too." It was the kind of sentence that stays in the air long after it's said. As I worked, she lingered nearby, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her presence. Every time she leaned over to look, her perfume brushed against me. Jasmine again, only softer this time. Lived in. Real. Does it bother you? She asked suddenly. I looked up. What does? The way people talk. About women like me. I hesitated, unsure if it was a trap or a confession. You mean women who look better than anyone else in the room? She smiled at that, but only a little. No. I mean women who should know better. Her gaze drifted somewhere past me, to the rain tapping against the window. My ex used to say I wanted too much. Attention, connection, something real. I think he just wanted quiet. I didn't know what to say to that. Maybe because I understood. I'd had people tell me I felt too much too, just not in words. When the signal light finally blinked green, I stood. All fixed. She took the mug from my hand and set it on the counter, her fingers brushing mine, not accidentally this time. Thank you, she said softly, her voice dipping low. You always show up when I least expect it. You always look like you don't need anyone to. I replied before I could stop myself. That made her pause. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved. The rain outside filled the silence, steady and private. She reached out, maybe to touch my arm, maybe just to steady herself, and her fingers grazed my sleeve. Warm. Deliberate. You're too young to talk like that, she said, barely above a whisper. And you're too beautiful to believe it matters. The words hung there, reckless and true. She exhaled slowly, eyes meeting mine. Careful, she murmured, stepping back, but she didn't look away. For a long moment, we just stood there, two people pretending the space between us was enough. Then her phone buzzed on the counter, sharp and sudden, snapping the air. She reached for it, glanced at the screen, and silenced it without answering. Her voice was quiet again when she spoke. Next time, don't fix it too fast. And as I left, I caught her reflection in the dark window, watching me go, coffee forgotten, the light from the router flickering like a heartbeat behind her. The rain had returned, harder this time. She texted, "Power's out again. I can't see a thing." I didn't think twice. By the time I reached her door, thunder was already rolling across the sky. She opened it before I could knock. Candlelight flickered behind her, soft gold brushing against her skin. "You didn't have to come," she said, voice low but not surprised. "I wanted to." Her lips parted, like she might argue, but she didn't. Instead, she turned and led me inside. The living room glowed with a few scattered candles, the scent of melted wax and rain seeping through the open window. I found the fuse box near the hall. She stood close behind me, closer than she needed to. I could feel her breath near my neck, uneven. "Careful," she murmured, as I reached for the switch. "Wouldn't want you to get shocked." "I think that already happened," I said without thinking. She didn't move away. The silence stretched thin. I could hear the rain on the roof, her soft exhale, the small hum of electricity that wasn't there. When the lights flicked back on, she blinked, caught in the sudden brightness, hair slightly damp, eyes shining. For a second, she looked younger. Or maybe just unguarded. "Guess that's your specialty," she said. "Fixing things." "Not everything," I answered quietly. Her hand hovered near my chest, as if she wanted to touch but didn't trust herself to. "You shouldn't say things like that." "Why?" "Because someone might believe you." A sharp ding from her phone broke the moment. The sound sliced through the air like glass. She turned to check it, a message glowing on the screen. Her jaw tightened. She set it down without replying. "Your husband?" I asked before I could stop myself. She shook her head. "Ex. He still thinks he can fix what he broke." The words carried a weight she tried to shrug off. She looked back at me, a small smile tugging her lips. "But you're not here for my past, are you?" "I don't know why I'm here," I admitted. She stepped closer, candlelight catching the edge of her collarbone. "Then maybe you should figure it out, before you can't walk away." Her voice trembled just enough to betray her. I could smell the rain in her hair, feel the warmth radiating off her. My hand lifted, stopped midway, hovering near her cheek, unsure. Her eyes flicked down, then back up. A breath. A heartbeat. The kind of pause that could tip either way. And then, a sharp knock at the door. We both froze. She drew back instantly, smoothing her hair, steadying her breath. Through the glass, a neighbor's voice called her name, casual, familiar, innocent. She turned to me, whispering, "Don't say a word." I stood motionless as she opened the door halfway, her tone perfectly calm. "Oh, hey. Power's out on your side too?" I couldn't hear the rest. Just her voice, steady, practiced, while my pulse hammered in my throat. When the door finally closed again, she leaned against it, eyes closed. The mask slipped, just for a second. "That was close," I said quietly. She laughed under her breath. "You have no idea." And before I could step back, she reached for my hand, fingers interlacing for the briefest, most dangerous heartbeat. Neither of us spoke. The thunder cracked again outside, and she didn't let go. I hadn't seen her in days. Not since the night of the storm. She'd stopped replying to my messages, and though I told myself to leave it alone, I found myself driving past her street anyway, just once, just to make sure the lights were on. That's when I saw her. Standing on her porch in the fading sunset, a glass of wine in hand, wearing that same quiet sadness she always tried to disguise as calm. When she noticed me, she didn't look surprised. She just sighed, like she'd been expecting this. "Couldn't stay away?" she asked. "Didn't want to." Her smile wavered. "You shouldn't say things like that." I stepped closer. "You keep saying that. But you never tell me to leave." The air between us thickened, heavy, electric. She looked down, swirling the wine in her glass. "You don't understand. People see what they want. And what they'll see, it won't be kind to either of us. I don't care what they see." "Yes, you do," she said, her voice suddenly sharp. "You're too young not to." The words stung more than they should have. I turned to go, but she reached out, fingers catching my wrist. "Wait," she whispered. The touch stopped everything. Her hand was cool against my skin, trembling just slightly. "I didn't mean," she began, but the words tangled in her throat. I turned back, close enough now to see the faint smudge of wine on her lower lip. "Then what did you mean?" Her breath hitched. "That I can't stop thinking about something that shouldn't even be happening." I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. "Then maybe it already is." For a long second she didn't move. Then she exhaled, slow, unsteady, and brushed her hand up my arm, stopping just below my shoulder. "Don't," she whispered, but it came out like a plea, not a command. "Tell me to go," I said quietly. Her gaze met mine, trembling between want and restraint. "You wouldn't listen." I took one small step forward. "Try me." The porch light flickered above us, the hum of night pressing close. Her eyes softened, lips parting slightly, a breath away from something we both knew would change everything. Then she reached up, fingers brushing through my hair, lingering against the back of my neck. "You shouldn't look at me like that," she murmured. "Like what?" "Like you already know how this ends." My voice dropped low. "Do you?" She shook her head, almost smiling, that same sad, reckless smile I'd seen the night she asked for a ride. "No. But I know it's too late to stop." Her fingers trailed down, resting against my chest. The warmth of her touch burned through the fabric of my shirt. For a second, the world narrowed, just her breath, the faint sound of the wind, the taste of wine in the air. Then, from inside the house, a phone began to ring. Loud. Shrill. Endless. She froze. The spell broke. Her hand fell away as she turned toward the sound, her voice barely a whisper. "I should get that." But she didn't move. And neither did I. The phone kept ringing, each tone stretching the space between us thinner, sharper, until finally, she looked back at me. Her eyes said everything her voice wouldn't. "This isn't over," I said quietly. She hesitated, then stepped close enough for her whisper to brush against my ear. "No," she said. "It isn't." It had been 3 days since the porch, 3 days of silence so loud it followed me everywhere. Then, out of nowhere, she texted, "You left your jacket." I hadn't. But I went anyway. When she opened the door, she didn't have her usual composure. Her hair was pinned up hastily, her expression unreadable. The house felt different, too quiet, too still. "I didn't come for the jacket," I said. "I know." She turned away, walking toward the kitchen, her bare feet soundless on the wooden floor. "Coffee?" "No." "Tell me why you stopped answering." She froze. Just for a moment, long enough to betray the calm she was trying to wear. "I thought it was better this way," she said. "Cleaner." "Cleaner?" I stepped closer. "Is that what this was to you? Something you can just wash off?" Her breath caught, and when she turned, her eyes glimmered with something between anger and fear. "Don't do that. Don't make this harder than it already is." I was about to speak when her phone, lying on the counter, buzzed again, same tone I'd heard that night on the porch. Before she could stop me, I saw the message light up. "Did he believe you?" My stomach dropped. She snatched the phone, locking the screen, her voice tight. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" She hesitated, fingers trembling around the phone. Then, quietly, "My ex. He knows about you." The words hit like static, low, sharp, wrong. "How?" She looked away, shoulders curling in. "He came by. He heard me talking to you on the porch that night." I replayed it in my head, the sound of the phone ringing, the silence after. "That's why you didn't call." She nodded. "He said he'd make things ugly if I didn't end it." "And what?" I said, my voice breaking a little. "We haven't even started anything." She laughed softly, a sound that hurt more than anything else. "That's the problem. We both know we already have." The air thickened again. She turned, moving past me toward the sink, her shoulder brushing mine, just a touch, accidental maybe, but it felt like fire. "I thought I could stop it," she whispered. "Pretend you were just being kind. Pretend I didn't wait for your messages." Her voice shook now. "But every time I hear a car outside I think it's you." She pressed her palms against the counter, head bowed. I wanted to reach out, to pull her closer, to make her look at me, but I couldn't move. Finally I stepped behind her, close enough to feel the tremor in her breathing. "Then don't pretend anymore." She turned, eyes glistening. "You don't know what this could cost." "I don't care." "Yes, you do," she said, voice breaking. "You're still young enough to think love is worth breaking things for. And you're old enough to know it still is." For a second, she just looked at me, then her expression cracked. She reached out, fingers finding my wrist, then my hand. "I told him I didn't care," she whispered. "That he could say whatever he wanted." I felt her hand tremble in mine. "So what happens now?" I asked. Her answer came out as barely a breath. "Now, we stop pretending we can stop." And before either of us could say another word, she leaned in, not a kiss, not yet, just close enough for her forehead to rest against mine, the warmth of her breath stealing the air between us. That was when I realized, the line we'd been dancing around wasn't there anymore. We'd already crossed it. The night she called again, I already knew I'd go. Her voice was soft on the phone, steady but tired. "Can you come by? Just for a minute." The minute stretched into eternity before I even knocked. When she opened the door, the air felt different, quieter, heavier. No candles this time. Just moonlight spilling through the half-drawn curtains, washing the room in silver. "I shouldn't have called," she said immediately. "But I didn't know who else to." I stopped her. "You did the right thing." Her shoulders dropped a little, like she'd been holding her breath for days. She turned away, pacing toward the couch. The faint scent of rain still clung to her, even though it hadn't fallen tonight. "I told him everything," she said finally. My pulse quickened. "You mean, that it wasn't just a friendship?" That I lied about that. Her voice trembled, but she didn't cry. He didn't take it well. I stepped closer, unsure if I was allowed. Are you okay? She looked up, and for the first time, there was no mask, no performance, just her. Beautiful, tired, undone. No, she said softly. But I will be. The quiet stretched between us, not awkward this time, just true. I reached out, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. She didn't flinch. If anything, she leaned into it, the smallest tilt of her head, the faintest sigh. You should go, she whispered. I don't want to. You don't know what happens after this. Maybe I don't need to. Her breath hitched. You'll regret it. Then I'll regret it with you. The line broke there, the invisible, careful one we'd been tracing for weeks. She turned toward me, slowly, deliberately, until we were just inches apart. Her hand found my chest, not pushing me away this time, just feeling the rhythm beneath her palm. My hand rested against her waist, light, uncertain. Neither of us moved. The air was thick, every heartbeat too loud. Her voice dropped to almost nothing. You shouldn't look at me like that. I can't look at you any other way. Her lips parted, not for words, just a breath. She closed her eyes for half a second, then opened them again. This isn't supposed to happen. Then why does it feel like it already has? Something inside her gave way, not surrender exactly, but relief. The kind that comes when pretending finally hurts more than truth. She took a step closer until our foreheads touched, her voice trembling against the space between us. You have no idea how long it's been since someone made me feel seen. I see you, I said. All of you. A small, broken laugh escaped her, half joy, half disbelief. Her hand moved to the back of my neck, pulling me closer. The world went quiet. No thunder, no ringing phones, no fear, just two people standing on the edge of something they couldn't name. And then, just before the moment could tip all the way over, she stopped. Her eyes met mine, full of everything she couldn't say. If we do this, she whispered, it changes everything. I nodded, my voice barely a breath. Maybe that's the point. The pause that followed was endless, the kind that lives between a heartbeat and a promise. Then she leaned in, close enough for the warmth of her breath to fill the space between us, and said the only truth that mattered. No more pretending. The night had ended quietly, no fireworks, no confessions shouted into the dark. Just silence. Soft, honest silence. I'd stayed. Not because I planned to, but because neither of us could find the will to say goodbye. She sat on the couch, knees drawn close, her hair tumbling over her shoulder. I sat beside her, not touching at first, just there. Outside, the sky was beginning to pale, that gray-blue stillness that comes before dawn. When she finally spoke, her voice was small. You should hate me for this. I turned to her. Why? She looked at me, eyes red from holding back too much. Because I made it complicated. Because I'm older. Because I should have known better. I smiled faintly. You're not the only one who should have known better. She laughed softly, the kind of laugh that sounds like breathing after too long underwater. So what now? The question hung in the air, heavy with everything unspoken, the age difference, the neighbors, the things people would say if they saw us like this. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I reached over and took her hand. Her fingers hesitated, then curled around mine, warm and trembling. No, I said quietly. We stop pretending it didn't happen. And we figure out the rest together. She looked down at our hands, her smaller one folded in mine, a contrast that somehow felt perfect. You make it sound easy. It isn't, I said. But maybe that's okay. She shifted closer, resting her head on my shoulder. The weight of it felt natural, like she'd always belonged there. The faint scent of her shampoo, the warmth of her breath on my neck, every detail felt alive, deliberate. I spent so long convincing myself I didn't need anyone. She murmured. And then you walked in with that stupid calm smile. Stupid? She smiled against my shirt. Infuriatingly calm. Like nothing could touch you. I laughed softly. You did. The silence after that wasn't awkward anymore. It was something else, something whole. She lifted her head, looking up at me, her eyes softer than I'd ever seen them. You really think this can work? I think we already know it does, I said. We just have to stop being scared of it. For a moment, she studied me, as if memorizing the truth in my face. Then she leaned in, her lips brushing my cheek, not rushed, not uncertain. Just right. When she pulled back, I could still feel the warmth of it, like an answer that didn't need words. Okay, she whispered. Then we try. I nodded, squeezing her hand gently. We try. Outside, morning had fully arrived, sunlight spilling across the floor, soft and golden. The world hadn't changed, but somehow we had. We sat there quietly, fingers still intertwined, the weight of the past slowly lifting as the light filled the room. No more hiding. No more pretending. Just us, imperfect, unexpected, real. Sparkles, did you enjoy the story? Speech Balloon, what kind of stories would you like to hear next?